My wife demanded, "Sign the house over to me or I'm leaving tonight." I replied, "Let me get a pen." Then I handed her divorce papers instead. When she read the private investigator's report attached, her bags were already packed, but not for the reason she planned. I, 41 male, have been married to my wife for 12 years. We have no kids, she never wanted them, and I eventually accepted that. I built my landscaping business from nothing, starting with a used pickup truck and a borrowed lawnmower. Now I employ 14 people and own the house we live in outright. Paid it off 3 years ago. Last Tuesday evening, she came home from book club, more on that later, and found me in the living room watching TV. She was dressed like she was going to a cocktail party, not discussing the latest bestseller with her friends. She stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. "We need to talk." I muted the TV. "Okay. I've been thinking about our future, about what I need, and I've decided I need security. Real security. We have security. The house is paid off. Business is good. Your business, your house, everything is in your name." This wasn't new. She'd been making comments like this for months. Little jabs about how unfair it was that I owned everything. How she felt like she was just a guest in our life together. I'd offered to add her to accounts to give her more access. She always declined, saying it was too complicated. Looking back, I realized she didn't want access. She wanted ownership. Complete control. "You want me to add you to the deed?" "No, I want you to sign the house over to me. Completely. Tonight." I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. "You want me to give you the house I bought before we were married, that I paid off with money I earned, just give it to you? It's only fair. I've supported you for 12 years, managed this household, put my career on hold." Her career was a part-time job at a boutique that she quit after 2 years because her boss was toxic. She hadn't worked in 8 years. "And if I don't?" She picked up her purse from the hallway. I noticed for the first time that there were 2 suitcases by the front door, packed, ready. "Then I'm leaving tonight, and I'm taking half of everything in the divorce anyway, so you might as well make this easy." I looked at those suitcases, looked at her face, the certainty in her expression, the rehearsed ultimatum, the bags already packed before she even asked. This wasn't a negotiation, this was a script, and I knew exactly who had written it with her. "Let me get a pen," I said. Her face lit up. Actually lit up, like she'd won. I walked to my home office, but I didn't grab a pen. I grabbed the manila folder that had been sitting in my locked desk drawer for 3 weeks. When I came back, she had her phone out, probably ready to text someone the good news. "Here," I said, handing her the folder. She opened it, expecting a deed transfer. What she found was a petition for divorce, and behind it a 42-page report from a private investigator. I watched her face change. Confusion first, then recognition, then terror. The report documented 3 months of surveillance, her book club meetings that took place at hotels, her shopping trips that ended at his apartment, photos of them together, holding hands, kissing, entering rooms, time-stamped, dated, exposed. "How?" she whispered. "Your story about book club didn't add up. You were reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for 4 months straight. The book's 400 pages. So I hired someone to find out what you were actually reading." She flipped through the pages, her hands shaking. There were credit card receipts, gifts she'd bought him with our money, messages the PI had photographed when she left her phone unlocked at a coffee shop, a timeline of the affair going back 14 months. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been protecting myself from someone who was planning to leave me for another man while stealing my house on the way out. Those bags by the door, they weren't packed because you were bluffing. They were packed because you were planning to move in with him tonight." She couldn't deny it. The report included his address, an apartment in a nice part of town. The PI had photographed her car there overnight on 6 separate occasions. "I can explain." "You really can't. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign those divorce papers, you're going to take your suitcases, and you're going to leave my house." "Our house. The deed says otherwise. I bought it 3 years before we married. It's not marital property." "I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer." "You should. You're going to need one." She tried crying. Real tears, real sobbing. And maybe 2 years ago, it would have worked. I'd always been a sucker for her tears. Every argument we'd ever had, she'd cry and I'd apologize, even when I knew I was right. It was a pattern I'd never recognized until I was forced to see our relationship clearly. But I'd spent 3 weeks looking at photos of her with another man, reading transcripts of their conversations about their future together, seeing the life she was building without me while pretending to be my wife. The tears didn't move me anymore. They just looked like another manipulation. "I gave you 12 years, she said through tears. "You gave me lies? The last 14 months at least, maybe longer. It just happened. Book club just happened. Hotel rooms just happened. The apartment you were planning to move into tonight just happened." She went silent. I pointed at the door. "Your suitcases are already packed. Convenient. Use them." She picked up her bags with shaking hands. At the door, she turned back. "You're going to regret this. I'm going to take everything." "You're going to try." She left. I locked the door behind her. Then I sat on my couch and stared at the wall for about an hour. 12 years. 12 years of building a life together. And this is how it ended. Not with a conversation about problems we could work on. Not with counseling or compromise. But with an ultimatum and packed bags. Planned to the minute. I'd known for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of smiling at her across the dinner table, watching her get ready for her book club, listening to her talk about her day. 3 weeks of knowing my marriage was a performance, and she was the only one who didn't know she'd been exposed. The hardest part was the acting, pretending everything was normal when I had photos of her kissing another man on my phone, pretending to believe her lies when I knew exactly where she'd been, who she'd been with, what she'd been doing. I'd wanted to confront her immediately. The night I got the first batch of photos from the PI, I nearly lost it. Sat in my truck outside our house for an hour, just gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide what to do. But I'd called my lawyer first. She'd been clear. Don't confront her until you have all the evidence. Don't give her time to delete messages, hide assets, or craft a narrative. Build your case, then act. So I waited, and it was the longest 3 weeks of my life. Update 1. 1 week later, the entitlement started immediately. The morning after she left, I got a call from her mother. I let it go to voicemail. The message was 20 minutes of screaming about how I was throwing away 12 years and humiliating her daughter and being cruel for no reason. No reason. Like the photos of her daughter with another man were nothing. Then came the text from her sister. "You're really doing this over a mistake? She was unhappy. That's your fault. Real men fight for their marriages." I didn't respond, just screenshotted everything and sent it to my lawyer. Speaking of my lawyer, I found a good one. Expensive, but worth it. She reviewed my situation and gave me the breakdown. The house was mine, purchased before marriage, paid off with separate funds. In our state, that's clear separate property, not up for division. My business was more complicated. Started before marriage, but grew significantly during. She could claim a portion of the appreciation. My lawyer estimated 20 to 30% depending on what a judge decided. Spousal support was likely. 12 years of marriage, she hadn't worked in 8. Even with the affair, courts in our state don't really factor that into alimony calculations. No-fault divorce means no fault, my lawyer explained. The affair helps with asset division arguments, but she'll probably still get support. That stung, paying the woman who cheated on me to maintain her lifestyle while she built a new life with someone else. But that's the law. Then came the first dirty trick. Her lawyer sent mine a letter claiming I had forcibly removed her from the marital home and denied her access to her belongings. They wanted emergency access to the house to retrieve her personal property. I hadn't denied her anything. She'd packed her bags herself. She'd walked out on her own 2 feet. I agreed to a supervised retrieval. My lawyer present, her lawyer present. Scheduled for Saturday. She showed up with a moving truck, not a car, a full-size moving truck. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Getting my belongings. Your clothes and personal items, not the furniture I bought." Her lawyer stepped in. "My client has a right to marital property. The furniture was purchased before the marriage. I have the receipts." I'd spent the week gathering every receipt, every bank statement, every proof of purchase I could find. The TV? Bought it in 2011, 3 years before we married. The couch? Same. The dining room set was the only thing she'd contributed to, and even that was purchased with my credit card that she was authorized to use. She ended up leaving with 6 boxes of clothes, shoes, and personal items. The moving truck was embarrassingly empty. "This isn't over," she said as she left. "I know." 2 days later, I got a call from the police. She'd filed a report claiming I was harassing her with threatening text messages. I'd sent her exactly 2 texts since she left. 1. Your lawyer can contact my lawyer for any divorce-related communication. 2. Saturday at 10 a.m. works for the property retrieval. I showed the officers both messages. They looked at each other, clearly annoyed at having their time wasted. "Sir, we have to follow up on these reports." "I understand. Here's my lawyer's card if you need anything else." They left. My lawyer added this to the file. "Pattern of false accusations," she noted. "Judges don't like that." The false police report was particularly infuriating. She'd actually told them I was sending her threatening messages. The officers had to come to my door, ask questions, treat me like a potential criminal, all because she was angry that her plan hadn't worked. This is what I'd been warned about. In these situations, the man is assumed to be the problem. The officers were professional, but I could tell they'd arrived expecting to find an angry, controlling husband. Instead, they found 2 polite text messages about divorce logistics. It wouldn't be the last time she tried to paint me as the aggressor, but at least now I had documentation that her accusations were baseless. Update 2, 3 weeks later. The discovery phase of the divorce revealed some interesting things. First, my wife had been siphoning money for months, not from our joint checking account. I'd have noticed that, but from a credit card in my name that she was authorized to use. She'd been taking cash advances. Small amounts, $200 to $300 at a time, spread out over months so they wouldn't trigger any alerts. Over 14 months, it added up to over $8,000. The credit card company confirmed the withdrawal locations. ATMs near his apartment, near hotels where they'd stayed, near restaurants where they'd had dinner. She was funding their entire relationship with money she was stealing from our marriage. Where did the money go? Based on the PI's report, most of it went to gifts for him. Designer clothes for his birthday, expensive dinners, weekend getaways when I thought she was visiting her sister. She'd been financing their entire affair with money from our accounts. My lawyer was delighted. This undermines her claim that she contributed equally to the marriage. She was actually draining marital assets. Second, her affair partner was married too. The PI had dug deeper at my request. Turns out he was separated from his wife, which really meant he was still legally married, living in an apartment while they worked things out. His wife didn't know about my wife. She thought he was taking space to reflect on their marriage. I briefly considered reaching out to her, decided against it. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Third, my wife's demands got more outrageous. Her lawyer submitted a list of what she wanted. The house. Despite it being separate property, 50% of the business, $4,200 a month in spousal support, her legal fees paid by me, the car I bought her, which was in my name, a lump sum of $75,000 for contributions to marital partnership. My lawyer actually laughed when she showed me the list. She's starting high to negotiate down. Standard tactic. But this is ambitious. We responded with our counter. House stays mine, separate property. 15% of business appreciation paid over 3 years. $1,800 spousal support for 2 years. Each party pays their own legal fees. She can keep the car. It was a 2019 Toyota with 85,000 miles, worth maybe $12,000. No lump sum. She rejected it immediately. Of course. But the real escalation came from her family. Her brother showed up at my business. Just walked into my office while I was meeting with a client about a major commercial landscaping contract. "We need to talk." I apologized to my client, a property manager who controlled contracts for 3 apartment complexes, and stepped outside. "Great first impression." "Thanks, brother-in-law. Your sister made her choices. I'm not discussing this with you." "She made a mistake. You're destroying her over it. She had a 14-month affair, stole $8,000 from our accounts, and tried to get me to sign over my house before walking out the door. That's not a mistake. That's a plan. You spied on her like some kind of stalker. I hired a licensed professional to confirm what I suspected. Everything was legal. Every photo taken in public places, every piece of evidence obtained without breaking any laws. You ruined her life. She ruined her marriage. I'm just responding to it. If you want to be angry at someone, be angry at the person who chose to cheat for over a year while pretending everything was fine. He stepped closer. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing. You're going to regret this. I pulled out my phone. Say that again, closer to the microphone. He left. I added it to the file. Then her mother called my mother, gave her an earful about how I was being cruel and vindictive and destroying her daughter's mental health. My mom, bless her, responded with, maybe your daughter shouldn't have slept with another man for a year while married to my son. Click. The mediation was scheduled for next month. My lawyer warned me to prepare for a fight. Update 3. The mediation and aftermath. The mediation was held in a conference room at the courthouse. Me, my lawyer, my wife, her lawyer, and a mediator who looked like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. My wife looked different. Thinner. Tired. Her lawyer had clearly coached her to look sympathetic. Modest dress, minimal makeup, no jewelry except her wedding ring. Still wearing that, apparently. The mediator started with a standard speech about finding common ground. My wife's lawyer jumped in immediately. My client has been traumatized by this process. She was forced from her home with only the clothes on her back. She packed 2 suitcases before issuing an ultimatum, my lawyer interrupted. She left voluntarily and has been denied access to marital assets. There are no marital assets. The house is separate property. We've provided documentation. The mediator held up her hands. Let's focus on what can actually be divided. We went through it all. The business was the sticking point. My wife's lawyer argued she'd sacrificed her career to support my work, which entitled her to a significant portion. What career? My lawyer asked. She worked part-time retail for 2 years, over a decade ago. She managed the household, which allowed him to focus on building his business. She also conducted a 14-month affair and embezzled over $8,000 during that time. The mediator looked at the PI report, at the credit card statements, at the timeline of the affair. This does complicate your client's position, she told my wife's lawyer. My wife finally spoke. I made a mistake, but that doesn't erase 12 years of marriage. No, I said, but it explains why you were so eager to get me to sign over the house before you walked out. That's not, I wasn't. Your bags were packed, his apartment was ready, you had the whole thing planned. The only part you didn't expect was me saying no. She didn't have an answer for that. The mediation lasted 4 hours. In the end, we reached an agreement, not because either side was happy, but because going to trial would cost us both more than we'd gain. My lawyer had warned me about this part. Trials are expensive and unpredictable. Even with strong evidence, judges have discretion. A bad day, a sympathetic view of your wife, and suddenly you're paying more than you should. Sometimes the smart move is to settle for something you can control, rather than gamble on something you can't. I hated it. Every fiber of my being wanted to fight, to make her face a judge and explain her actions in open court. But my lawyer was right. A trial could take a year, cost $50,000 in legal fees, and might not give me a better outcome than what we could negotiate now. So we negotiated, for 4 exhausting hours. The settlement. The house remained mine. Completely. This wasn't negotiable. Her lawyer tried one more time to argue marital home status, pointing out that we'd lived there together for 12 years. But the deed was in my name, purchased with my money, before we were married. The law was clear. She got 20% of the business's appreciation during the marriage, about $68,000, paid over 4 years. I didn't love it, but my lawyer said a judge might have given her more. She'll argue she supported your career by managing the household. It's a weak argument, but not groundless. 20% with the affair evidence is actually a decent outcome. Spousal support. $2,100 per month for 3 years. After that, she was on her own. She wanted indefinite support. She didn't get it. Her lawyer argued she'd sacrificed her earning potential for the marriage. Mine countered that she'd had 8 years to find employment and chose not to. The mediator sided with a time-limited approach. She kept the car, whatever was in her personal bank account, about $3,000, and her personal belongings. No lump sum, no legal fees, no house. The $8,000 in credit card cash advances was considered advanced distribution of marital assets and was deducted from her settlement. My lawyer's language, but basically she got nothing extra for the money she'd already stolen. Her lawyer tried one more push. My client requests that the PI report be sealed from any court records. No, my lawyer said, it's embarrassing and it's evidence of conduct relevant to the dissolution of marriage. It stays on record. We signed the papers. It was done. Afterward in the parking lot, my wife caught up to me. She'd been walking with her lawyer, but she broke away and approached me alone. "Are you happy now?" she asked. Her voice was bitter, but there was something else underneath. Desperation, maybe. Happy isn't the word. I gave you 12 years. You gave me 12 years of what I thought was a marriage. Turns out the last 14 months were a lie, maybe longer. It didn't mean anything with him. It was just, I was lonely. You were always working. I felt invisible. The excuses, always the excuses. I'd heard them all in the PI's report, the same lines she'd fed him about how neglected she felt, how I didn't appreciate her. Funny how she'd never mentioned feeling lonely to me, never asked for couples counseling, never suggested we spend more time together. She'd just found someone else. If you were lonely, you could have talked to me. You could have told me something was wrong. Instead, you had an affair for over a year and then tried to steal my house. I wasn't trying to steal. Sign the house over to me or I'm leaving tonight. Those were your exact words. Your bags were packed. His apartment was waiting. What would you call that? She didn't have an answer. Where is he now, by the way? I asked. The apartment ready for you two? Her face tightened. That's none of your business. But I already knew. The PI had kept tabs as a courtesy. The affair partner's wife had found out about my wife. Someone must have tipped her off. She'd filed for divorce too. And he, facing his own consequences, had apparently decided that my wife was too much drama. She was staying with her parents, 48 years old, sleeping in her childhood bedroom, with a divorce settlement that would barely cover rent. Not my problem. Goodbye, I said, and I meant it. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks ago. I mailed the first quarterly check for her business settlement last week. Writing it hurt, but less than I expected. It's just money. I'll make more. The spousal support is automatic. Direct deposit on the 1st of each month. I try not to think about it. My house is quiet now. 12 years of marriage, and the only thing she left behind was a hairbrush in the bathroom drawer and some expired vitamins in the kitchen cabinet. I threw them both away. I've been slowly reclaiming the space, rearranged the living room furniture, took down the photos of us that lined the hallway, painted the bedroom a different color. She'd chosen the original, and I couldn't look at those walls anymore without thinking of her. It's strange, living alone after so long. The silence is loud sometimes, but it's my silence, my space, my life. My business is fine. Actually, it's doing better. Maybe because I'm focused again. Maybe because I'm not coming home to lies every night. Either way, the books look good. Her family still hates me. Blocked them all. Her mother, her sister, her brother. I don't need their opinions. My family has been supportive. My mom calls every Sunday. My brother came over last weekend to watch football. Small things, but they help. Am I okay? Not really. Not yet. 12 years is a long time. You don't just shake that off because you find out it ended with betrayal. There are moments when I forget, just for a second, and expect to hear her voice. Then I remember, and it hits all over again. The hardest part isn't the betrayal itself, though that's bad enough. The hardest part is questioning everything that came before it. Was any of it real? Did she love me at any point, or was I always just convenient? Every memory I have of our marriage is now tinted with doubt. Our wedding, our anniversaries, that trip we took for our 10th anniversary where she said she'd never been happier. Was she already thinking about leaving? Already looking for something else? I'll probably never know. And somehow not knowing is worse than any answer she could give me. But I'm better than I was. Every day, a little better. The night she gave me that ultimatum, sign over the house or I'm leaving, she thought she had all the power. She thought I'd crumble, beg, give her whatever she wanted to keep her. She didn't expect me to already know, didn't expect the folder, didn't expect to walk out the door with her own suitcases and nothing else. She wanted to leave me holding nothing while she started her new life. Instead, she left with exactly what she'd earned: a modest settlement, no house, and the knowledge that her husband saw through every lie. Her bags were packed that night. She was right about that. But they weren't taking her where she thought they'd go. I still have the house. I still have my business. I still have my dignity. She has $2,100 a month, a settlement that'll be paid off in 4 years, and a childhood bedroom at her parents' house. Some nights, I think about that ultimatum. Sign the house over to me, or I'm leaving tonight. I didn't sign anything over, and she left anyway. Funny how that worked out.